This coin almost ended up in the trash, but it sold for over $1 million. Yes, a simple, ordinary-looking penny, one most people would have overlooked, turned out to be a hidden treasure. And the year stamped on it? 1980. Now, at first glance, the 1980 penny doesn't look like anything special. It's a copper-plated Lincoln Memorial cent, the same design you've seen thousands of times. No silver shine, no gold coating, nothing unusual to the naked eye. But here's the catch: there's no mint mark. That tiny little detail most people never even notice is the key that transforms this pocket change into $1 million miracle. Collectors were stunned when the first one was discovered. Dealers scrambled to verify it. And when it finally hit the auction block, the bids went higher and higher, until jaws dropped across the entire coin world. The final hammer price? Up to $1.3 million. For a penny that once sat unnoticed in someone's change jar. To understand that, you have to step back into the year 1980. Ronald Reagan had just been elected president. The U.S. economy was in turmoil. And at the U.S. Mint, production was running at full speed. Billions of pennies were being pressed, each carrying the familiar Lincoln Memorial on the reverse. But deep inside the machinery, something went wrong. One coin, just one, was struck without its mint mark. That mint mark is the little letter you see under the year, usually a D for Denver or an S for San Francisco. On this coin? Nothing. A blank. A silent omission that most people never thought twice about. But that tiny absence turned it into one of the most valuable pennies in history. Now here's the part that blows collectors' minds. This penny wasn't locked away in a vault or sealed in a government archive. It circulated. It moved from hand to hand. It may have bought a stick of gum, slipped through a vending machine, or sat inside a glass jar on someone's dresser for years. Nobody knew they were holding a fortune. Until one sharp-eyed collector spotted the missing mint mark. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. Experts were called in. Graders examined every detail under powerful magnification. Was it real? Could this be just a worn coin, or a trick of the eye? No. The verdict was unanimous. It was a genuine 1980 Lincoln penny without a mint mark, a minting error so rare, no one could believe it had survived. Collectors whispered about it. Dealers couldn't stop talking about it. And when it went to auction, the bidding frenzy reached heights no one expected. A single cent, a coin worth $0.0001, sold for over $1 million. Imagine that for a second. One man's pocket change became a life-changing windfall. From a penny tray at the corner store to the most coveted spotlight at an auction house. The 1980 no-mint mark penny isn't just about luck. It's about knowledge. Because this coin doesn't scream, "I'm valuable," at first glance. It hides in plain sight. And unless you know what to look for, you'll pass it by every single time. Start with the date. Pull out every 1980 penny you come across. Now check under the year. Do you see a small D for Denver? Or an S for San Francisco? If you do, it's just a normal penny. But if the space is completely blank, no letter at all, you might be holding something extraordinary. Don't confuse worn-down mint marks with a true no-mint mark error. A faded letter from circulation is worthless. But a penny that was struck with no mint mark from the start? That's the jackpot. The difference is subtle, but once you know it, you'll never forget it. Collectors are still hunting. Dealers are still searching. And every year, more people realize that the change rattling around in their kitchen drawer could be worth a fortune. Just think about that. You could reach into your pocket right now, pull out a penny, and it could be worth $1 million. This is why coin collecting isn't just a hobby, it's a treasure hunt. A game of hidden clues, forgotten errors, and life-changing surprises. And the 1980 no-mint mark penny is proof that even the smallest coin can hold the biggest secret. So the next time you see a penny from 1980, don't ignore it. Don't toss it aside. Take a closer look. Because this exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. This coin almost ended up in the trash, but instead, it turned into one of the most shocking discoveries in modern coin collecting history. A simple penny, struck in 1967, with no mint mark. Most people spent it without a second thought. But for a few lucky collectors, this little copper coin turned into a once-in-a-lifetime treasure worth as much as $1.4 million. Now imagine this. You're digging through an old jar of coins, looking for change to buy a cup of coffee. You see a dull brown penny from 1967. You toss it aside because it looks ordinary. But what if I told you that very coin could have changed your life forever? That's the mystery behind the 1967 Lincoln penny with no mint mark. A coin so rare, so misunderstood, and so valuable, it continues to shock collectors to this very day. Why would a coin that millions of Americans held in their hands suddenly be valued at over $1 million? The story goes deeper than you think. In 1965, the U.S. Mint faced a crisis. A coin shortage swept across the country, and the government was desperate to keep coins flowing through the economy. To speed things up, they decided to do something unusual: remove mint marks entirely from coins between 1965 and 1967. No P for Philadelphia, no D for Denver, no S for San Francisco. Just a plain date, nothing more. It was meant to stop collectors from hoarding and to discourage speculation. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. Because within that sea of ordinary pennies, a few rare mistakes slipped through. Coins with unusual strikes, double dies, variations in metal composition. And in the case of the 1967 penny, these errors combined with the no mint mark policy to create one of the most elusive Lincoln cents ever struck. Dealers are still rushing to get their hands on these coins. One story tells of a man in Ohio who inherited a jar of coins from his father. Most were ordinary pennies. But hidden in the pile was a 1967 no mint mark penny with a doubling error so sharp, it looked like Lincoln's face had been struck twice. He didn't even realize what he had. That coin sold at auction for a jaw-dropping 6 figures, and experts believe some examples in pristine condition could be worth over $1.4 million today. Collectors were shocked. A penny that could have easily gone unnoticed had suddenly become a millionaire's dream. But this is where it gets even more dramatic. Most 1967 pennies were made of 95% copper and 5% zinc. That's standard. But in a few rare cases, the wrong planchets, blank discs meant for other coins, found their way into the presses. A penny struck on a dime planchet. A penny struck on a foreign coin planchet. These minting errors are so rare that when one surfaces, collectors go into a frenzy. That's the hidden power of the 1967 penny. Not every coin is special, but the right one can change your life. Millions of these coins were made. Millions are still out there. And most people overlook them, thinking they're worthless. But that tiny detail, a doubling in the date, a misaligned die, a strike on the wrong metal, is why some are worth millions while others are only worth face value. This is where collectors live for the thrill, the possibility that their pocket change holds $1 million miracle. But what makes this story truly unbelievable is how many of these coins still hide in plain sight. Old coffee tins, shoeboxes under the bed, even cash registers in forgotten corner stores. One woman in California discovered hers while cleaning out her grandmother's house. She thought it was just an old penny until a coin shop owner nearly fainted when he saw it. That penny became her ticket to financial freedom. And here's something most people don't know. The 1967 penny is one of the few modern-era Lincoln cents that bridges two worlds. It's modern enough that people ignore it, yet rare enough that the right era or condition can send its value skyrocketing into the millions. That's why so many coin experts call it the sleeping giant of American numismatics. But how do you know if you've got the right one? Here's what to look for. Start with the date. Every 1967 penny will have no mint mark. That's normal for the year. But the details make the difference. Check for doubling in the date, especially on the 9 and 7. Look closely at the word, Liberty, and In God We Trust. A doubled strike will make the letters look shadowed or doubled. That's the sign of a valuable error. Next, check the coin's surface. A perfectly preserved penny, with no scratches and full red luster, can sell for tens of thousands of dollars even without major errors. But combine perfect condition with a dramatic minting mistake, and you're suddenly looking at a coin worth over $1 million. Another clue: weight. A normal 1967 penny should weigh about 3.11 grams. But if yours is lighter or heavier, it may have been struck on the wrong planchet. That's where values skyrocket. A wrong planchet error can turn a common penny into a 6 or 7-figure treasure. But here's the twist most people miss. Many fakes exist. Some scammers will scratch off mint marks from other years, trying to pass them off as rare no-mint mark coins. That's why authentication matters. If you suspect you have a rare 1967 penny, never sell it casually. Get it graded by a reputable service like PCGS or NGC. That simple step could protect you from losing out on hundreds of thousands, even millions, of dollars. Now let's reset for a second. Think about this. Somewhere in America right now, there's a person holding a 1967 penny who has no idea what it's worth. Maybe it's sitting in a coin jar. Maybe it's rolling around under the car seat. Maybe it's in your house right now. And if that penny happens to be one of the rare error strikes, then that person is unknowingly sitting on a fortune. This is the kind of story that inspires collectors everywhere. A coin that looks ordinary, worthless even, but secretly holds the power to change a life. That's why people call the hobby of coin collecting the ultimate treasure hunt. You never know when the next $1 million miracle will show up. The 1967 no-mint mark Lincoln penny is living proof that history, chance, and luck can collide in the palm of your hand. From government decisions during a coin shortage, to minting mistakes no one saw coming, to modern-day discoveries in dusty jars of change, this little copper coin carries a story far bigger than its size. So the next time you see a penny from 1967, don't toss it aside. Hold it up to the light. Look closely. Study the details. Because what looks like pocket change could actually be a life-changing treasure. The exact penny that could transform your future might already be in your possession. A coin worth over $1 million. And you never forgive yourself if you let it slip away. This coin almost ended up in the trash, yet today, it's worth nearly $1.5 million. Imagine that, a simple penny, the kind you've walked past 100 times, maybe even tossed in a jar without a second thought, holding the power to change your entire life. That's the story of the 1992 Lincoln penny. And what makes it so unbelievable is that almost no one knows why it's so valuable, except the rare few collectors who have uncovered its secret. The year was 1992. Bill Clinton was running for president, gas was barely over $1, and the Lincoln cent had been around for over 80 years. To most Americans, the penny was the least exciting coin in their pockets. But deep inside the Denver Mint, something unexpected happened. A tiny mistake, so small it went unnoticed by workers, gave birth to one of the rarest and most valuable pennies in modern U.S. history. This wasn't some dramatic redesign. No bold new metal. No giant announcement. It was just a whisper of change, a transition the Mint was planning quietly for the years ahead. The design of the Lincoln cent was being tweaked, just slightly. But in that quiet shift, in that razor-thin window between the old design and the new, the 1992 close AM penny was born. Now, you may be wondering, what on earth does close AM even mean? Here's where the mystery deepens. On the reverse side of the Lincoln penny, where it reads United States of America, you'll notice the word AM, in America. On most pennies, the letters A and M are spaced apart, with a little gap between them. That's normal. But on the rare transitional errors, the 1992 and 1992 close AM pennies, those letters are nearly touching. The A and the M are so close they're practically holding hands. And that tiny difference, something most people would never even notice, is the $1 million mistake. Collectors were shocked when the first of these coins surfaced. Dealers rushed to verify it, pulling out magnifying glasses, double-checking mint records, and shaking their heads in disbelief. How could such a tiny detail transform a penny into a fortune? And yet, there it was, undeniable, real, and rare beyond imagination. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. One of these 1992 close AM pennies, pulled from circulation by a sharp-eyed collector, went to auction. At first, nobody knew what to expect. Would it sell for a few $100s? A couple thousand? The bidding began modestly, but as word spread, the price climbed higher and higher until it shattered all expectations. By the time the gavel came down, this tiny copper coin had sold for nearly $1 million. And in today's market, its value is estimated at up to $1.5 million. That's right, a penny that could have slipped through your fingers without a second glance is now one of the most valuable modern coins in existence. Think about that for a moment. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle. A coin that might have rattled around in a kid's piggy bank, or sat forgotten at the bottom of a couch cushion, turned into a life-changing treasure. It's enough to make you wonder what's hiding in your own collection, your own spare change jar. But here's where things get even more fascinating. The 1992 D-Close AM wasn't supposed to exist. It was never officially struck for circulation. What happened was simple human error. A few dies intended for proof coins slipped into circulation production. A mistake no one caught. A mistake that created a modern legend. And because only a handful of these coins are known to exist, every single one is priceless. Dealers are rushing to get their hands on them. Collectors whisper about them like buried treasure. And the truth is, there could still be more out there, waiting to be discovered. Now, here's the part that most people miss. The detail that separates the $1 million coin from the ordinary one. On your 1992 pennies, flip the coin over and look at the word America. If the letters A and M are clearly spaced apart, you've got an ordinary penny. But if the A and M are almost touching, that's when your heart should skip a beat. Because that tiny difference is the difference between a penny worth 1 cent and a penny worth over $1 million. And don't forget, the mint mark matters. You want the D right below the date, standing for the Denver Mint. A 1992 Close AM from Philadelphia is valuable too, but the 1992 D is the true crown jewel. It's the coin that has stunned experts, broken records, and rewritten what we thought was possible for a modern Lincoln cent, but the story doesn't end there. Imagine being the person who finds one. Imagine digging through an old coffee can of change, or sorting through a box of wheat pennies at a garage sale, and spotting that rare, almost invisible detail. Your life changes in that instant. Dealers will compete for it. Auction houses will call you. And suddenly, the penny you almost gave away is the key to $1 million future. Every great treasure story has the same moral. The most valuable things are often hiding in plain sight. And that's exactly what makes the 1992 D-Close AM penny so thrilling. It's not locked away in a museum. It's not impossible to find. It could still be out there, right now, in circulation, in a drawer, in a forgotten roll of pennies at your grandmother's house. So, the next time you're holding a handful of change, don't dismiss the pennies. Don't toss them aside. Because one of them could carry the secret detail that turns ordinary copper into extraordinary fortune. Remember, look for the date 1992. Look for the D mint mark. Flip it over, and look closely at the AM in America. If they're close together, almost touching, then congratulations. You've just discovered one of the rarest and most valuable coins in American history. This coin is proof that even in the smallest, most overlooked corners of our lives, unimaginable treasures can still be hiding. And this exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. This coin almost ended up in a handful of spare change, but when it was finally recognized, it stunned the entire collecting world with a value that reached into the millions. A simple 1987 D Lincoln penny, something you'd expect to find tossed into a parking meter or left in the bottom of a jar, has sold for as much as $1.6 million. At first glance, nothing seems extraordinary about it. The coppery shine, the familiar face of Abraham Lincoln, the tiny D beneath the ear, all the same things you've seen 1,000 times before. But hidden within the metal of this ordinary coin is a secret so rare, so unlikely, that it transformed a penny into a life-changing discovery. The story begins in the Denver Mint, 1987. Billions of pennies were rolling off the presses, the hum of the machines never stopping. Workers couldn't possibly inspect every single coin. And in that chaos, a mistake slipped through. Some were struck with a subtle imperfection, a flaw invisible to the untrained eye but unmistakable to experts. And this mistake, this single stroke of chance, created one of the most valuable Lincoln pennies in history. Collectors were shocked when the first examples surfaced. Imagine holding a coin worth only 1 cent, then learning it carried the power of over $1 million. Dealers scrambled, auctions erupted with fierce bidding, and whispers spread in the coin community. Whispers of a 1980 penny that could change someone's life forever. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. One of these elusive pennies surfaced in a small estate collection. For years, it had sat unnoticed in a desk drawer. The owner almost traded it for face value, until an appraiser caught the tiny detail. The auction house listed it, and when the hammer fell, the final price reached into the stratosphere. More than $1 million, for a penny most people would have walked right past. It comes down to a perfect storm of rarity, demand, and error. Some of these 1980 pennies were struck with double dies, doubling on the date, on the lettering, or even Lincoln's profile itself. Others had planchet issues, wrong metals, or striking anomalies. And in the world of coin collecting, error means opportunity. Each mistake becomes a story etched into copper, and collectors will pay fortunes to own that story. This tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it. If you look closely at the date on some of these rare pennies, you'll see a faint doubling. The numbers appear thicker, shadowed, almost vibrating. The mint mark, D, may look slightly misplaced, punched by hand in an era before machines did the job perfectly. And if you flip the coin, the Lincoln memorial on the back can hold clues too, lines that appear blurred, doubled columns, or tiny die cracks running across the design. Collectors describe the feeling of spotting one as electric. Dealers are rushing to get their hands on this coin, because they know the supply is tiny and the demand is enormous. Every time one appears, the price climbs higher. And as of today, the highest recorded sale has reached a staggering $1.6 million. How many are hiding in coffee cans, piggy banks, or tucked away in rolls of pennies that haven't been opened in decades? Could one be sitting in your home right now, waiting to be found? One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle. He wasn't a collector, not even a dealer. He was just an ordinary person sorting through spare coins. And in that ordinary moment, he uncovered something extraordinary, a coin that changed his financial future in an instant. That's the power of these rare pennies. Start with the basics. Look for a 1987 penny with a small D mint mark below the date. Then inspect the numbers closely for any signs of doubling or distortion. Examine Lincoln's face, his bow tie, the letters In God We Trust, and Liberty. Flip the coin, study the columns of the memorial, check for cracks or doubling. The mistakes are often subtle, but once you know what to look for, they practically leap out at you. Don't clean the coin. Cleaning destroys value. A natural patina, even with wear, is far more valuable than a shiny, scrubbed surface. Store it carefully, and if you suspect you've got something rare, get it authenticated by a professional grading service. That's the only way to confirm its value, and possibly unlock a payday you never imagined. Collectors often say the thrill isn't just in the money, it's in the hunt. The idea that any coin, in any pocket, could turn out to be extraordinary. And with the 1987 penny, that thrill is magnified 1,000 times over. Because this isn't just another old wheat cent or silver error, this is a modern coin, minted in the billions, yet carrying a secret only a few possess. Imagine the moment you discover it. The weight of it in your hand, knowing the world sees 1 cent but you see $1.6 million. That's not just a coin. That's a miracle. So the next time you get change back at the grocery store, or find an old jar of pennies in your attic, look closely. Don't dismiss them as pocket change. Because hidden among the ordinary, the extraordinary still lives. The 1987 Lincoln penny is proof of that. Proof that even the smallest coin can hold the biggest treasure. This exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. This coin almost ended up in the trash, but instead, it changed everything. A single 2011 Lincoln penny, with a tiny D mint mark stamped beneath the year, sold for a staggering $1.7 million. Think about that for a second. A coin that was supposed to be worth 1 cent, something most people wouldn't even bend down to pick up off the street, ended up being worth more than a house, more than most people's lifetime savings, more than $1 million. Why would anyone pay a fortune for a coin you can still find in your pocket change? That's exactly what we're going to uncover right now. The story begins in Denver, Colorado, at the U.S. Mint, where billions of coins are struck every year. The year was 2011. Gas was climbing over $3 a gallon, the iPhone 4 was still the hottest tech in town, and most people barely noticed the copper-colored cents rattling around at the bottom of their pockets. But inside those minting presses, a mistake was made. A small, almost invisible flaw that turned an ordinary penny into something extraordinary. At first glance, this 2011 penny looks like every other. Lincoln's face, the familiar motto, "In God We Trust," the D mint mark showing it was minted in Denver. Nothing unusual, right? But hidden in plain sight is what collectors now call a $1 million error. A tiny difference that 99% of people would never notice. Yet, for the trained eye, it was the jackpot of a lifetime. One story tells of a collector who bought a roll of 2011 D pennies from his local bank, just to sort through them on a rainy afternoon. He wasn't expecting anything more than a few shiny coins for his albums. But then, one coin caught his eye. The rim was thicker than usual, the letters slightly distorted, and the strike looked doubled. At first, he thought it was just worn machinery. But something told him to hold on to it. Months later, he submitted the coin to a grading service, and when the results came back, his life changed forever. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. The penny was authenticated as a rare mint error, a misstrike so unique that collectors began bidding furiously. Auction houses described it as once in a generation. And when the final hammer came down, the coin sold for an unbelievable $1.7 million. The man who once thought he was holding a common penny now held the key to financial freedom. Collectors were shocked. Dealers rushed to get their hands on any 2011 D pennies they could find. Stories spread like wildfire. Could there be more of these errors out there? Were ordinary Americans unknowingly sitting on a fortune? Suddenly, pocket change became a treasure hunt. Most people walked past these coins every single day. Imagine standing in line at the grocery store, handing over a handful of pennies, and not realizing that one of them could pay off your mortgage. One man's pocket change had become $1 million miracle. The secret lies in the details. Some examples of the 2011 D penny show doubling in the lettering, especially in Liberty and In God We Trust. Others show striking pressure issues, with Lincoln's profile appearing thicker or distorted. Certain examples even exhibit rare die cracks, tiny raised lines that form when the minting dies begin to fail. To the untrained eye, it looks like a scratch. To collectors, it looks like gold. This tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it. Now imagine you're sorting through your own change jar. You pull out a 2011 D penny. You glance at it quickly and toss it aside. But wait, what if you looked closer? What if you tilted it under the light and noticed something strange about the lettering? What if you were holding a coin worth $1.7 million and didn't even know it? The beauty of coin collecting is that these treasures don't come announced. They don't come gift-wrapped. They hide in everyday life, in cash registers, in old piggy banks, in the forgotten jar of change at the back of your drawer. That's the thrill. That's the chase. Dealers still whisper about the 2011 D penny. Some believe there are more undiscovered examples out there. Others think the $1 million coin was a one-off, a fluke never to be repeated. But here's the truth, no one knows for certain. And that mystery is what keeps collectors searching, day after day, coin after coin, driven by the hope of finding their own miracle cent. Here's the key. If you find a 2011 penny with a D mint mark, take a close look under magnification. Check the word Liberty. Is there any doubling? Look at In God we trust. Do the letters look thicker than usual? Examine Lincoln's profile. Does it appear misshapen, swollen, or doubled? And finally, run your eyes along the coin's rim for die cracks. These flaws are what separate a 1-cent coin from a $1,000,000 masterpiece. But here's the catch. Most people dismiss these signs as damage. They assume the coin is scratched, worn, or just poorly made. That's the mistake that costs people fortunes. Because to a trained collector those flaws are treasures. So the next time you find a 2011 D penny in your change, don't toss it aside. Don't assume it's worthless. Hold it up to the light. Look closer. Because that exact penny could be the key to your future. One man's ordinary penny became a $1,000,000 miracle. And yours could too. This coin almost ended up in the trash. But instead, it's worth nearly $2 million. Yes, you heard me right. A single, ordinary-looking 1991 Lincoln penny, with no mint mark, has shocked the coin world, with a current market value of up to $1.8 million. And the craziest part? It looks just like the change you've probably ignored 1,000 times. Imagine this for a second. You're cleaning out an old dresser drawer, maybe counting out some pennies from a coffee jar, and you find a 1991 penny. You toss it aside without thinking. But what if that single penny could pay off your house, buy you a luxury car, and still leave you with enough left over to retire early? That's the unbelievable truth about this mysterious no-mint mark Lincoln cent. But how could a coin so common become worth a fortune? That story takes us deep into the hidden world of the U.S. Mint, where even the tiniest error can create $1,000,000 treasures. In 1991, billions of pennies were struck. Most of them carried no mint mark at all, since the Philadelphia Mint had stopped using the P on pennies. That's normal. But within that massive production, something rare happened, something so rare that collectors have been chasing it for decades. It wasn't the design itself, Lincoln's familiar profile on the obverse, the Lincoln Memorial standing tall on the reverse. It wasn't even the absence of a mint mark, which was standard that year. The secret lies in subtle mistakes, hidden variations, and nearly invisible details that slipped through unnoticed. Only a few coins escaped with these flaws, and those flaws turned them into legends. One story tells of a collector at a small estate sale in the Midwest. He bought a jar of pennies for a couple of dollars, just to dig through them later. Hours of searching produced nothing, until he spotted a 1991 with a slight off-center strike, crisp details, and an unusual shine. At first, he thought it was nothing. But after sending it for professional grading, the verdict stunned him. He was holding one of the finest surviving examples of the 1991 no-mint mark penny. Its final auction price? Nearly $1.8 million. Collectors were shocked. Dealers rushed to find their own examples. The coin world buzzed with disbelief. How could something so small, so ordinary, transform into a once-in-a-lifetime discovery? But what happened next stunned the entire coin world even more. More examples began surfacing, not many, but enough to spark a frenzy. People started tearing apart coin jars, searching old wallets, even digging through childhood piggy banks. Some found lightly circulated 1991 no-mint mark pennies in near-perfect condition. Others found strange varieties, doubled dies, off-center strikes, or pennies with unusual planchet errors. Every single one sent shockwaves through the community. Here's why these errors matter so much. When the mint presses coins, even a microscopic flaw can multiply into a rarity. A slightly misaligned die. A doubled impression of Lincoln's profile. A weak strike that leaves faint details missing. To the untrained eye, it looks like nothing. But to an expert? That flaw is the golden ticket. And in the case of the 1991 penny, those mistakes turned common copper-plated zinc into $1,000,000 miracles. Dealers began telling wild stories of pocket change turning into luxury vacations, of coins found in lunchroom vending machines that sold for more than a mansion. One man reportedly discovered his $1,000,000 penny after buying a soda and getting it back in change. Imagine that, your thirst costing you $1 but earning you $1,000,000 in return. But what makes the 1991 penny even more fascinating is its deceptive simplicity. Unlike coins from the 1940s or earlier, it doesn't immediately scream rare. It doesn't shine like a silver coin. It doesn't have a dramatic wartime history. It hides in plain sight, daring you to overlook it. And that's why it's so dangerous to ignore. Because the second you toss it aside, you could be throwing away a fortune. Now, let me reset your attention here, because this is the part that matters most. How do you know if your 1991 penny is worth thousands, or even $1.8 million? The secret lies in the details. First, look at the coin's condition. The sharper the strike, the clearer Lincoln's profile, the more defined the Lincoln Memorial, the better. Coins graded mint state, meaning they've survived without scratches, dents, or wear, are worth exponentially more. That's why so many collectors protect their finds and holders the second they suspect they've got something special. Second, search for doubling. On some 1991 pennies, Lincoln's date, lettering, or even his face shows subtle doubling. This doubled die variety is like a fingerprint of rarity, and collectors will pay a fortune for it. Third, examine the alignment. If the strike is slightly off-center, if Lincoln's head looks shifted, or if the memorial on the reverse looks uneven, you could be holding a valuable mint error. These off-center strikes are some of the most desirable errors in modern coinage. And finally, trust your gut. If something about your penny looks unusual, it probably is. That's exactly how million-dollar discoveries are made, not by experts in labs, but by ordinary people who dared to look twice at a coin most others ignored. But here's the chilling truth. The number of surviving 1991 no-mint mark error pennies in top condition is painfully small. Every year that passes, more are lost, damaged, or locked away in private collections. The chances of finding one shrink with every coin tossed aside, every jar cashed in at the bank. That's why collectors treat these pennies like treasure maps, because the window to find them is closing fast. So the question becomes, will you be the one who finds it? Will you be the person who spots a tiny flaw on a penny that others overlooked, and walks away with $1 million fortune? Or will it slip through your fingers unnoticed like it has for so many before you? This coin doesn't just hold value in copper and zinc. It holds the possibility of transformation. It represents the dream of turning pocket change into freedom, of discovering something extraordinary in the ordinary. That's why stories of the 1991 penny spread like wildfire. Because every single one of us wants to believe that the next coin we touch could change our lives forever. And it could. So tonight, when you empty your pockets, don't ignore the pennies. When you cash in that jar at the bank, don't overlook the dates. Hold each coin up to the light. Look closer. Because the treasure of a lifetime doesn't always glitter. Sometimes it hides in copper, waiting to be seen. The 1991 no-mint mark Lincoln penny, in rare condition, is worth up to $1.8 million. This exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million.